Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. Most of this one is going to be about the new Avatar Funko Pop wave that has finally been more heavily detailed. We actually have some pictures, but we do actually have some more kind of, I suppose, fandom specific news here with, of course, the idea that, as you've probably heard, AvatarNews is stopping doing Avatar News. So exactly sort of, 10 years since he started, he's decided to wrap things up. He mentions, like a new chapter begins. He doesn't specifically specify like, what he's moving on to or what the exact reasoning behind why he's not covering Avatar News anymore. But it is the loss of a long-running news outlet, fandom media, whatever way you want to call it. Someone who's been around covering this stuff since 2013, and especially over the last couple of years has evolved and become one of the kind of most popular kind of sources of Avatar news out there. And especially when it comes to Avatar Studios and I suppose the live action as well, where stuff has been quite secretive, and the fact that he has had some insider kind of tracks on things, getting some scoops and just making things interesting, whereas I think otherwise, especially with regards to Avatar Studios, I think this would be a very boring last 2.5 years since we learned about Avatar Studios if we didn't have all of the leaks and insider information that he has presented over these kind of couple of years. Like seriously, like the official communication has been so bad about Avatar Studios. Like, imagine where we would be without all of that stuff to get us talking, speculating, kind of keeping things going. That's the kind of stuff that you kind of will maybe remember Avatar news for. So he does specify in a second tweet that this isn't because of some like cease and desist kind of type thing, as some people had been speculating about. Obviously, it probably doesn't help that he maybe was rather vague about exactly what's happening here. But the idea is that it doesn't seem like he's going to be continuing, so we won't be getting any new kind of insider tracks on things, which is going to leave us for Avatar Studios, I suppose, in a bit of a tough situation where we are really now relying on them getting up and going again with official strong communication, but it could still be a while before any of that stuff happens. I will say though, when it comes to like, say, what the last actual piece of news he talked about was just almost like casually, having not mentioned anything in quite a while, just dropping that like, he seems to know, Netflix live action is coming February 2024. That seems to line up with what I think a lot of people have been speculating. Other people who have kind of like insiders have been kind of roughly saying somewhere around kind of February, March is kind of the idea. At this point, like, it's one of those things, like, at least for me, I just need to see more of this. The initial images were kind of like, okay, but it really doesn't tell me too much. Like, I need to see some footage, more shots of this in action. And now that there's kind of a little bit of pressure on because One Piece live action for Netflix delivered, kind of feels like Avatar now has to deliver because of that. One Piece was the one where it was kind of like, it'll be a miracle if they get it right. And they did get it right. And in Avatar, there's probably more expectations that they should get it right. So let's hope that kind of continues the trend of good live action adaptations. But Avatar News has obviously been a real advocate for kind of like covering this stuff. He seems super popular about it. So the fact that he's sort of dropping out of kind of coverage right before we're getting into the kind of final countdown, final couple of months in the build up to release is a bit of an interesting one. But we don't want to speculate too much about why exactly this is happening. He's made his announcement, and we just have to kind of continue on here. Of course, I'm going to be covering as much of the news as I can, yeah, we'll go on here to Funko Pop news. So I suppose technically this happened first. So Kyoshi Funko Pop. This, of course, initially we heard about early last month. There were rumors, more concrete rumors about the next wave of Funko Pop. So you can see Aang floating, a glow-in-the-dark exclusive version of that one, Azula and Iroh with lightning, King Boomy, Momo, Appa with armor as a 6-inch pop, Warrior Saga exclusive, and then of course Spirit Kyoshi. So the Boomy, it seems like we've had already for a while. Spirit Kyoshi, of course, is right here. So this is going to be an Entertainment Earth exclusive, but we'll get into the details of that in just a minute. So really nice. Like, obviously it's super cool that Avatar Kyoshi is getting her own Funko Pop, especially in the Funko line. Her getting one before Roku does, I think, is very interesting. Now, to be fair, if you factor in the kind of weird NFT ones, technically Karuk got one before either of these two, but actually widely accessible and not with stuff that people don't like. You know, Kyoshi's getting a main release. I get it's an exclusive, but, you know, a main release ahead of quite a lot of other characters is very interesting. So, of course, this is obviously meant to be, you know, the kind of spirity form, like when she's talking to Aang at the end of the series. I do hope they do a full color version of her, because I think people would like the normal Kyoshi as well. So, very cool stuff there. I think this is going to be a very hype and in-demand Funko Pop, especially with the glow-in-the-dark aspect. Because just to get this in place, we do already have a Spirit Funko Pop from before, so you can see they've already released an Aang Spirit Funko Pop, so this Kyoshi one will go kind of, I think, pretty well with that. Then, going back to these, on the back of the Kyoshi box, I think this is where these were revealed. This typically means that this lineup of 5 is going to be the commons for this next wave of pop. So these pretty much should be available everywhere. And be relatively easy to get. So we have Floating Aang, there it is. So this is, we expect we'll have an exclusive, probably with the glow-in-the-dark markings, potentially on like the arrows and stuff like that, but the airball especially. Azula finally gets a common, that's interesting. It is Azula with lightning here from the final Agni Kai. Iroh with lightning and some effect is pretty nice as well. That's a nice contrast to the original Iroh for sure, so I like that. And then, as has been a weird trend in certain official Avatar things recently, Nightmares and Daydreams, Ronin, Momo, and Samurai Appa getting some attention here. They're getting like high-end exclusive statues from Dark Horse. The U2s, I think, are doing these as well. Now Funko is doing them, especially with the Appa being like a pop super, so a bigger, more expensive pop. It's a bit of an interesting one. Not something that particularly interests me, unfortunately. I would have much preferred they did Appa in his armor from Day of Black Sun, rather than this one. And again, I think I just prefer Momo doing something a little bit different than the Samurai Momo, the Ronin Momo. Iroh I like, Common Azula I like, especially if you don't have the second Azula, which is like from a little bit earlier on in the final Agni Kai. The Aang I'm actually quite disappointed in, because I thought when we just had the name that this was going to be like a Boy in the Iceberg style thing, bigger pop, or Cosmic Aang or something like that. But the fact that it's just like Aang holding onto an airball like before he falls. I think this is from what, Warriors of Kyoshi, I think, is when he like falls into the fangirls when he tries to do this. We have so many Aangs. We still have so many book 1 Aangs. We even have a couple of book 3 Aangs. This is just a little boring to me. I think it could have been something a lot more interesting when we're waiting for, say, like book 3 Katara, book 3 Sokka to kind of hit, Roku, and like Order of the White Lotus characters. Okay, we have you know, Iroh, of course. We have Boomy already. You know, where's like our Pakku, Zhong, where's some of these other characters rather than just Aang constantly like on repeat? Again, going back to the rumors, it seems like the only thing we haven't seen is the glow-in-the-dark Aang floating and the exclusive warrior Sokka, which could be book 3, you know, Day of Black Sun Sokka, but that also could be like very early, you know, Sokka with the face paint from earlier on in the show, which I think I'd much prefer this to be Sokka from the invasion rather than super early Sokka, at least for me. But that is where we are at with Funko Pops. Briefly to cover the stuff like Entertainment Earth, obviously the Kyoshi is an exclusive here. It is available, you can pre-order it here, coming November 2023. So if you are from America or I guess other regions, you can get it. I'm pretty sure you can't order these if you are from Europe, but you don't need to worry too much, because if you are from Europe, like myself, Funko Europe has a listing for the Kyoshi. Now, this is exactly what happened with the Boomy, which is also was an Entertainment Earth exclusive, but it ended up being a Funko Europe exclusive. It's going to be the same situation with Kyoshi, as you can see here. So right now it just says notify me, so this is going to see release pretty soon over the next couple of weeks, I guess in line with when it comes out in America. And if you just sign up to be notified by email, you'll know. I found it very easy to get my hands on the Boomy, and I think it's probably going to be pretty similar for the Kyoshi as well. So just, going in here, you can see there, Funko Special Edition, not Entertainment Earth. So very interesting there. And then one final thing is just this item here, the Appa backpack from Loungefly, but also comes with a flocked Appa pop. I think we have seen, was it a larger scale Appa flocked we saw before? Or was this the one that came with the weird cereal thing? I forget. There's been a few different releases of the Appa, but there's got to be one that comes with this backpack. They don't cover like what number pop necessarily this one is, because it comes with the backpack. Like they don't show like, does it come in its own like box or something like that? But if you are looking for all iterations of Funko Pops, this one is here as well. So yeah, there's that. So for now, that basically has been all of the news. It's been pretty light recently. Of course, we are waiting for stuff like New York Comic Con is coming up in October. I think it's October 12th to the 15th. At the very least, we should be expecting the announcement of the next Korra comic at New York Comic Con. There's always a chance they do something Avatar Studios related at one of these cons. It still feels a little early, especially with all the strikes and stuff like that going on. But they have to start eventually. Because if they don't do something kind of here, then we're probably waiting until maybe they do something February next year in line with their investors events and stuff like that. Otherwise, it is Comic-Con, SDCC next year, and New York Comic-Con next year, when we're like a year out from the first Avatar Studios project, the movie for 2025, October 2025. And that feels like, okay, bare minimum in a way there, like just properly starting communication about a year beforehand. But it feels like we probably should know a little bit before that. But we obviously are just kind of trying to wait and see on that stuff. Otherwise, remember, Avatar Quest for Balance, the video game, is out September 22nd. I know there's not a lot of hype for the game because there hasn't really been much footage or anything like that, but we are basically 2 weeks away from the release of that game. I'll be getting it. I'll be doing coverage of that, like a live stream or something like that. So obviously check out the channel when it releases for some of that stuff. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that there is a full-on console Avatar game coming out soon. But yeah, other than that, we are just waiting for kind of news on pretty much everything. But I don't know when we're going to be expecting it, especially now with our main source of kind of leaked information out of the news game. So a bit of an interesting one there. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. AvatarNews kind of shutting down, basically. The new Funko Pop wave. What are your thoughts on everything? But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.